articulating, reflection, and understanding what that actually means in the concept of identifying the clues of who we are, which then becomes a pattern in a consciousness. To allow us to make different choices, we need to be in a different consciousness and have an alternative reflection. And it may require us to have a different space in which to create or co-create that reflection as well. And so I think it's very difficult for people without silence and reflection to identify the clues, because if you can't do those first three predicated upon finding a pattern, you'll never see a pattern. Since 1981, Justin has been producing world-class Bordeaux-style wines from Paso Robles on California's Central Coast. As the pioneer of Paso, Justin wines are what put Paso Robles on the winemaking map. The Justin team believes that wine should be exceptional from every angle, which is why their team uses boutique winemaking practices like hand harvesting and hand sorting. With a rich history of accolades, Justin produces exceptional wines and is proud to be America's #1 luxury Cabernet. Whether you're the first-time wine drinker or a wine aficionado, Justin has a wine for every celebration and occasion. Visit justinwine.com and enter promo code Playbook20 for 20% off your order. Justin offers the perfect holiday gifts for clients, colleagues, friends, or family. Be sure to check them out at justinwine.com to receive 20% off your order for a limited time and use the promo code Playbook20. Welcome, everyone. It is our Friday training on a Thursday. It's our weekly training, and it's our office hours training. I think we forgot we had so many commercials. We should have started the commercials earlier, but nonetheless, we're not getting any younger, you can tell. And I got two of my favorite co-hosts with Office Hours Digital, the incredible Blaine Bartlett, BlaineBartlett.com, working with me on the Napoleon Hill Institute, making possibilities into reality, moving them into reality, as Napoleon Hill taught us. Welcome to Office Hours, our training session. Blaine Bartlett.
Hey, great to be here, David. Always. I love Thursdays.
I love Thursdays as well. And when I get my Friday training, I've been doing over 25 years Friday trainings, and would not be the same. Another great executive with the Napoleon Hill Institute coming on board with me, and also co-hosting Office Hours with us, Blaine, OG Rep Power. Welcome, my friend. We appreciate you also being present. We got a great training and today. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, love it.
And you're in Nigeria right now, is that correct?
Yep, live.
Today. Yep. We're all right. So you are on the mark, Rhett. And speaking of on the mark, our first friend that's going on for Office Hours today is Mark Lascola. He is here, founder of On the Mark, and it's the leading global boutique organization, design consulting, for helping to create more than 500 operating models and redesigns across all of the world. It seems like he might even be in Nigeria. Mark, welcome to Office Hours.
Thanks, David. Great to be here. Rhett, you're a man of few words. I'm talking to you from Phoenix, Arizona. It's good to see you, Blaine.
I love it.
Well, hopefully Blaine and I'll carry YouTube in a few words. So we appreciate it. So I'm curious because, you know, people don't like change, and it's why there's so much fear today, because everybody knows come Tuesday of next week, there's going to be a lot of change on Wednesday. But in that, we're going to require an organizational redesign of our country. And so I was wondering if you, as an expert in this area of redesigning things, what are some of the things that we should be thinking about that you utilize in your consulting firm in redesigning our country, the same as you have companies?
Yeah, it's at the risk of straying into the political, I think, and gender dynamics, which I think you have to be able to in order to talk about this. But I'll give you first a little bit of background. Is my training is in clinical psychology, and particularly human systems. I started out my career in that, and then got involved in community economic development early in the mid '80s, and then had my first redesign experience in 1987. Through kind of a theoretical but very practical set of principles called socio-technical systems, which is based on the premise that that you change behavior and you change a technical system simultaneously. And the way you do that is through people support what they help create. And so there's this adage of you don't change people, I don't come in and change you. In some ways, you can elevate this to the old light bulb. How many psychologists does it take to change a light bulb? None, because the light bulb has to change itself. It's the same thing that we apply in our operating model modernization projects. We never actually ask people to change. We bring them into a process and we take them through a very rigorous process, and they redesign their own operating models going through a very rigorous process, and their behavior changes simultaneously because they have to work together differently. Now, if we apply that to what's going on politically and socially in our country, I think there's a bit of a tug of war. First of all, let me just say this. I don't think anything that we're facing is insurmountable. You give me 10 people with opposing points of view, and we'll find common ground, and we'll fix it. And we'll fix it to everyone's liking, knowing that we have to compromise, we have trade-offs. I think it's when you get to, I'm going to impose on you, and I'm going to tell you what to do, and I'm going to tell you how to do it, is where you start to create reluctance, resistance, and in some cases, rage and everything else. And I think, so the issue for me is, and I always come back to this, is, get me opposing points of view, get me that genius in the room. And by the genius, I mean what we call puzzle learning. Give me those different perspectives, the diversity perspectives in a room, focused on one issue. We'll figure out our way through that, and we'll come out with a better solution because it will be more robust, because we have different eyeballs on it. And that's the key. That's the key for us moving forward as a country.
Yeah. The idea of design, and I want to, you and I were talking before we started the show here a little bit, Mark. The notion that the environment will design me in return. There's a reciprocity. Mm-hmm. So, a lot of entrepreneurs, business leaders, don't really pay particular attention, in my experience, to their organizational design. And as a consequence of that, they're trying to fit a round hole or a round peg into a square hole. The idea of shifting behavior. Behavior is always a consequence of meaning. So if I'm managing the meaning, I'm managing the movement that is generated in the system. And managing meaning ultimately comes down to a design question.
That's right.
So in the work that you do, how do you actually broach that? Because that's kind of a chasm for people to get over, because they get lost in the weeds. We're just doing our business here. How do you get them to actually step back, look up, and go, oh, there be danger here if I don't pay attention to this? Yeah.
So David was right. We've done over 500 of these around the globe, and one of my beliefs is let's not make the same mistake. We'll make new mistakes, but not the same ones. So our 8-step solution, we have 8 phases, and each phase sets up a set of decisions that have to be made. And one of those phases, the second phase, has to do with setting up the strategic intent, what differentiates us, what are our values, what are we about, what are we really offering to our customers, what's our value proposition. Now, that work is so critical, which is, I can share with you, is never as substantive as it needs to be in most companies we walk into. But that work then becomes the set of criteria and the requirements for whatever operating model is put in place. So as people are designing what we go through a concept and detailed design or a detailed operating model, they're always going back to the requirements and saying, if we do this, is it going to achieve that? So what happens as a natural result, Blaine, is people internalize that. People internalize that strategy, that differentiation, those values in real time by doing the problem solving together in a collaborative environment. And it takes on a life of its own. Let me give you an example real quickly. There's been a handful of projects where we've gone almost into detailed design, early implementation, and the CEO or the leader has been fired or moved, and everybody thinks, oh, what's going to happen now? And what happens is when a change is embedded in people and they internalize it, it takes on a larger life. So it's not about the CEO going out and professing what needs to be done. What happens is people carry that on like a legacy. And I've seen it tens of times. And it's a beautiful thing when it happens, because it's all about a leader's job is to get the message out so that people can make meaning and relevance. And your word relevance, Blaine, is so spot on. It's meaning and relevance in terms of any business strategy. So it's critical.
Great.
Well, you're muted, Rhett. The old Nigerian computer.
Mark, I'm fascinated by. I didn't want to get the gunshots in the background.
That's awesome.
Duck, get under your desk.
Stop dropping. We're all old enough to remember. We're all old enough to remember getting under our desk, aren't we?
Yeah, that's right.
No, but I was fascinated by this because I want to hear a story, I guess, of a transformation, like where you did this work and there was an amazing transformation of this company. They took everything to heart and they internalized it, and they just took this and went above and beyond where you thought they might.
I'm going to give you one that's included in I think a 1998 top 10 business book for the New York Times. And the reason I'm going to share that with you is because it has a lot of lessons that are still rich today. But this was a business unit within American Express, and I won't say anything more than that. It was a female leader who at the time had more courage than most male leaders around her. We can get into that a little bit more as well. And she took over this business that was losing about $1 million a month. They couldn't recruit people into the business. They had a new technology upgrade coming that they weren't ready for. It was just a mess. Morale was in the tank. And like you said, I think David or Blaine, typically leaders come in and approach this in a fragmented way. Well, let's get some Six Sigma over here. Let's get some, let's redo the HR policies over here. Let's look at our spans of control over here. And nobody's seeing the whole of the gestalt. And I said to this leader, I'll give you her first name. Her name was Lorraine. Fantastic woman, still a friend of mine today. And I said, Lorraine, instead of going about all the things that are broken separately, let's go about it holistically. And there's this thing called organization design. And her curiosity was piqued. And I said, well, let me show you what this means. It's about fixing all these things simultaneously so they fit together. And she goes to me, she goes, well, how much time do you need it? And I said, if you give me 8 weeks, we can get it done. And she goes, you have 30 days. I said, no, I need okay, how about 35 days? And she goes, you have 30 days. Anyway, long story short, it was 30 days. We redesigned this company, or redesigned this business unit in 30 days. There was a trade-off. Of course, the trade-off was we need access to your people, and they're going to be spending a lot of time doing this. But where we ended up, it was highly collaborative. Everybody in the business was involved. Where they ended up, within 3 months post the redesign and implementation, their customer satisfaction scores went through the roof. People were lining up out the door to get into that part of business. They were making money. They weren't losing money anymore. But one of the things I want to talk about here, which is why I mentioned a woman leader being surrounded by men, is because one of the negative effects that happens sometimes in an organization called a campus effect. And the campus effect is one leader is doing so well, things are going so well for that leader that everyone else kind of got a little envious, maybe a little jealous, a little insecure about it. And they forced her out because people were uneasy with that. And she was a strong enough and courageous enough woman that said, I'm not doing this like this. I'm not going to play that game. And she left, but the design remained. And it was just an incredible story. And the engagement scores and the at the time, the employee satisfaction scores also went from the low 40s and 50s up to the 80s and 90s. It was really a dramatic turnaround and pretty quickly.
He's wasting his time outside of being Secretary of State. He's on the mark on how to redesign collaboration and coordination, provide value in a non-intrusive manner. If you want the best to come in to redesign the efficiencies, productivity, the accessibility, and for me, most importantly, the gratitude within an organization, that's Mark Lascola. He is my next Secretary of State. He's going to bring us all together, the founder of On the Mark. Go to onthemark.com. Mark promised me that you'll come on all of our shows. We need more of you. We'd love to see you in person as well, whether it's in Vegas, California, Arizona, or even New York. You definitely are needed in our neighborhood. I'll bring the best out of especially this country and its organizations. We appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Thanks, Mark.
You got it, man. Awesome. What a great start to this Thursday, Friday training. An amazing man. Those are the guys you just start. Dance cards are going to fill up because everybody's going to want to learn more. I just gave you a little bit of a sample, little taste. That's what we do here. It's enlightenment on crack. We just give you a little bit of taste, and then you want more enlightenment. And Ron Gutman is here to do the same. Co-CEO, co-founder of Intrivo. You're going to have to tell me which one. But talk about customization, personalization, utilizing technology to help healthcare become more delightful. Lightning. Welcome, Ron, to Office Hours.
Yeah, good to be here, David. Thank you for having me. What a wonderful show you have. I'm a big fan, so thank you for.
Thank you. Well, it's the guys that make me look good and women that are on the show, but these two co-hosts are mentors of mine. So I get an MBA in a day, especially on Thursdays, office hours, which is why I made it my training. Now, first of all, we pronounce it Intrivo or Intrivo?
Intrivo, yeah, it's Intrivo.
Intrivo, okay, I got that one right. So how do you make care more delightful? I thought that was a phenomenal explanation and adjective to use, because I dare to say I've never seen a company or any person tell me that healthcare is more delightful. What do you do? Serve sprinkles at the end?
Yeah, exactly. No, look, I mean, we've done it. We've done it with more than 100 million people already. I mean, the OnGo, which was our platform that we started commercializing during the pandemic with some of the OnGo test to treat solutions. We're one of the first ways to handle COVID with testing, with treatment, and really we're able to streamline this whole process of care. You didn't have to go to a doctor, go to a testing station, figure out the pharmacy, insurance, is it covered, is it not covered? I mean, all of this headache that all of us are really familiar. That's why you're saying like a delightful healthcare. What are you talking about, right? So we had the same problem, and then we decided to streamline the entire thing and build this amazing platform and an AI that enables us to basically understand what you have, understand what's going on very, very quickly, direct you to the right level of care, connect you with the right professional or the right way to identifying what's going on, identifying the right solution very, very quickly, providing that solution to you and delivering it to you. It's not just telling you what you need to do or take this drug or do this thing and then you're on your own, but actually providing you the solution and then holding your hand throughout the entire process of recovery. So until the point that either you got a handle of it, if it's a chronic condition and you need to continue managing it, or it's solved because it's something acute that you can move on to the next thing. So using a combination of a platform, we are a technology company, so really like a platform that you can access from an app, from a website, from wherever you are, and through an AI that streamlines that experience and understands you and personalizes the right kind of pathway to you, we create delightful experiences.
The creation of a delightful experience is interesting. I'm on the teaching faculty of the American Association for Physician Leadership. And I remember a program I did a couple of years ago where I actually put a question up on the screen for these docs and hospital administrators to consider, and it was, how do you bring joy into the hospital experience? And they just kind of looked at me like I was from Mars. And I was going, no, I'm serious. I want you to, and put them into some small groups and said, I want you to just kind of brainstorm a little bit about this. It was fascinating what they came up with. They hadn't even recognized to begin with that joy could be a part of the healthcare experience. And once they got that epiphany, it was interesting to see what began to happen. And I got some feedback from folks after the program, in their clinics about some of the things that they started to implement. So a question for you here, Ron, has to do with, what are some of the things that you've seen implemented that actually at a granular level, at the experience level, actually has changed the experience of healthcare for the consumer, the patient in this case, and or the nurses, the staff, the docs that are involved with it?
Yeah, I think there are several categories that create delight. One of them is speed, which we're very much unused to in healthcare. Everything takes a long time. Everything takes scheduling and friction and stuff like that. Speed. I want to get what I need to get. I want to get the access quickly. I want to understand what's going on quickly. I want to get the solution quickly, and I want to get better quickly. So I think like emphasis on reducing friction and creating speed to solution. So everything is available in an app. Everything is available to you at the palm of your hand with as fewer clicks as possible. I work with my team all the time on this thing. My background is product and engineering. I love reducing the process, fewer steps, less time, less thinking, right? It's all there, it's available, it's quick. One thing is very, very important. We want it quickly. We definitely want to be in a trustworthy place. It has to be high quality. We can't get quick and something that is, going to give us the wrong solution. So we need to connect people with the right kind of care that they can trust. They know that they're getting the right prescription from the right kind of healthcare professional that provides care that is actually the right care for them. So I say quality is the right and a very important part of that as well. And the last that is very important is personalization. It's not the one solution fits all, because well, you have a cough, so you must have something that everybody takes and you're going to be fine, right? Like it's going to be a solution that fits you. And a solution that fits you is not just clinically fits you, but also, what about budget? What about something, some people have more and some people have less, but they still entitled to get access to the best care possible. Some people have things that are available to them locally. Some people need to get delivery. So when we think about care, we can't just think about the clinical aspect of it. We need to think also about convenience. We need to think also about price. We need to think also about access, right? So a lot of things that people may want to take something or believe it's good for them, or it is good for them, but it's not accessible to them. So directing them to the right solution that is not accessible is frustrating. So personalization is another key factor of delight, right? So I think quality, speed, personalization, and last but not least, maybe but the most important thing, empathy. Really, like we're all forgetting that in healthcare way too often, right? Like it's not just about the utility. It's really, healthcare is not just about health, it's also about care. Is the solution and the people who are involved there, and even the machines themselves, are caring enough? And what we're doing right now, which is unique, we're actually designing an AI that is compassionate, right? That is tuned to people's emotions and feelings and adjust itself to where people are, because we think is as important as the clinical solution.
Great. Thank you.
We doing all right on time? We good?
Yeah, let's just do a shorter answer on this one, but we want to make sure we get all of the knowledge. So go ahead, hit them up with a more closed-ended question. What color is your favorite color? No, I'm kidding.
Two things. One has nothing to do with this. I got to talk to you. I have a TED Talk in next year, and so I need your advice, clearly, because you did it right. The other thing is, tell me about the trip to Bhutan quickly. I know my friend Keith Farazi was just over there with a bunch of coaches helping the government. Were you part of that trip, or was this something you did on your own? Or
No, it was amazing. I just came back a few days ago. It was a trip of a lifetime. I went there with a few academics and some local clergies, and it was just what an amazing place. I mean, talking about mindfulness, talking about caring, kindness, nature, right? Connecting back to the fundamentals, right, of what makes us human, right? And I think that it's a country that I said it's kind of like a bubble of tradition, because it's so isolated from the rest of the world, kind of sandwiched between China and India, on the mountains, on the Himalayas. It's 70% forested, and they're keeping it like religiously, right? Like if you need to cut a tree, even if it's on your property, you need to get this special permission from the government to cut the tree, because they want to keep it 70% forested, right? And they're connected to nature like no other place that I've seen, and that helps them connect to their inner selves better. I mean, it's obviously, like, a country that is rooted in religion, right? It's rooted in tradition, right? And the fact that it's not in the trajectory of fast progress. I mean, it's low. The GDP is relatively low. I mean, we're talking $3,500 a year GDP. But the previous king said that GNH, which is Gross National Happiness Index that he put in place, is more important than GDP, right? And people were happy. People were happy. And what was interesting for me is to try to find the foundation for the happiness. And I did find that simplicity and connectivity to nature have a lot to do with the foundation for happiness.
So does purpose, and you have a definite purpose in what you're doing, Ron, and we appreciate that. If you want to see how AI and other technologies allow for healthcare to be more delightful, accessible, and personalized, you have to check out Retrivo, retrivo.com. Ron Gutman, the co-founder, co-CEO, please come back and visit us on office hours. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you so much, Blaine and Red. Really, really nice meeting you, and continue doing amazing things. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you. We'll see you soon. This show is brought to you by BetterHelp. Therapy is a great tool for facing your fears and finding ways to overcome them, because sometimes the scariest thing is not facing our fears in the first place and holding ourselves back. It's helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Overcome your fears with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/playbook today to get a 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/playbook. Imagine starting a small business, your first customer, first hire, first real paycheck. But everything isn't just exciting, it's scary. That's where JustWorks come in, the all-in-one platform that supports small business growth. Access seamless tools that help with benefits, payroll, HR, and compliance with transparent pricing. It's time to make payroll painless, run payroll in 90 seconds or less, and automate payments so you can set it and forget it. Did you know in 2023 alone, they processed over 25.6 billion in trusted payroll customers? Don't worry about the paperwork piling up either. They take care of payroll tax documents and reporting to help you stay compliant. Visit justworks.com/podcast to join the thousands of small businesses that trust JustWorks to take care of payroll, benefits, compliance, and more. That's justworks.com/podcast. Moving right along, about halftime, but Friday training on Thursday. We've done this over 25 years. So one time I even did a Friday training on Wednesday, but that was crazy. I think I was partaking in psilocybin or something. I lost track in the calendar of where I was. Rhett and I were in Tennessee just a few days ago. Based in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And she's with one of my favorite PR firms. I work with them often. She's a writer at Otter PR. Let's welcome the patient, Marcy Polson. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, David.
Oh, thank you. We always are interested in thought leaders that write. I think print media is a skill set that is actually becoming more valued because of AI. The same way as in my expertise, live events are more value now because of AR and VR in virtual events. And so in that realm, you've been an expert in this space for a long time as a print media a writer. How do you feel that writing has become an elevated value versus what most people thought would happen with AI?
You know, I think most people still would say that AI is not going to be able to do what we as writers do, and they're right. It can pull off some pretty good tricks, and it can really help you with research. And I'm constantly impressed with AI. I mean, I am one of the ones who says, you know, this is an amazing tool that we have at our disposal. But I would also tell you that I don't foresee a future where writers are not going to be involved in the process.
Smart.
You know, and we write for we write for a number of different reasons. But from a business perspective, one of the reasons that we write is visibility. And Otter PR, I mean, you're one of the top PR firms in the country. And as I understand it, and I've kind of spent a little bit of time on your website, fascinating, getting amazing media coverage for every client, guaranteed. Now, that word jumps out at me, not because it's highlighted on the website, but the idea of being able to guarantee that kind of media coverage is a big promise. How do you go about achieving that, Marcy, in a way that is integrous?
Well, I am part of an amazing team. We have, you know, incredible writers. We have editors. We have amazing publicists. We have just a ton of people involved in this process. And what I do as a writer is an incredible opportunity. I meet with fascinating clients every day, and I listen to their story. I connect with them, build a relationship, and then I take that story and share it with the world. And we are partnered with outlets that allow us to do that. We also have amazing publicists that reach out everywhere they can. And we get, you know, we will get your story to the people who need to hear it every time. And clients, they are incredibly happy with what we do. And that makes me happy. That's actually what I love about the whole writing process, is hearing from clients that, you know, they loved what I wrote.
That's great.
You know, with so much noise today, you go to conferences, and all three of us do this all the time, and all you hear is AI, 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 AI. But what's the importance of this type of PR, telling your story and actually having somebody help you craft it in a way that's going to resonate? Because I don't think I can put my story into AI yet and have it really help me target my audience very well, right? It doesn't do it for me. How do you talk to people like me who need the PR but think there's shortcuts today to doing this?
I would say it really involves a one-on-one conversation. You know, I really want to connect with that client. And that's something that no matter how far in the future we are, AI isn't going to be able to do, unfortunately. It can help us with organizing some of the feedback we get from clients, but it can't talk to the client and really listen to what they're saying. And as writers, we can read between the lines of a lot of things they're saying, and we also have a lot of other clients. We know a lot of things that, you know, their story connects to so many other stories that are out there. And AI is getting better at that, but I think it still lacks a lot of that creativity. On the granular level, I see AI trying a little too hard, just being a little too fluffy And we know as human writers, that turns people off pretty quick. And so we can tell the story in a way that other people are going to connect with, I think.
And that's connection is told by a vibration or a frequency of someone who has over a decade of experience in a team in order to facilitate building a community, and in the respect of writing the right content in order to edit it, modify it, amplify it into a perpetual format, which is writing, whether it be in person, on the phone, via email, traditional or social. It is the writers that express the vibration or the frequency that allow us to build brands, products, services, solutions, or personal brands need someone to represent those at their essence, that other people may articulate as authentic. And Marcy is one of those people leading the way, and Art is the leading PR firm that I know, so much so that in a very subjective space, they guarantee value. If you want to have that guarantee and work with the best, reach out to otterpr.com, ask for Marcy Paulson. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for everything you do for us. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Great. Thanks, Mars.
Thank you,
Bye.
Marcy.
Down in Tennessee with my southern friend, Red Power.
Tennessee volunteer.
Amazing place.
That's right.
We'll stop by the Huddle House. Me and Rhett will stop by the Huddle House and have some grits.
There you
anyways, we are moving right along. I just want to take a little bit of a reset. It is Friday training on Thursday. It is the office hours trainings, and I brought the two professors in, Rhett Power and Blaine Bartlett, who have been my mentors, elevating my understanding, not only increasing my wisdom and understanding synergistic to what's going on today, but also letting me understand the mindset, heart set, and hand set of faith, allowing me to shorten the distance of resistance in my life. Two great professors here on Office Hours, our Friday training on Thursday. I want to remind people, if you like the takeaways from today, if you like the exercises, guides, or books, go ahead, scan that right there, or email me, david@dmeltzer.com. But we have our next guest waiting in the wings. It's your job to bring the best out of Sif Kafa Gee, sorry. Welcome, the founder of TechVestor. Hopefully. No? Yes?
No.
No,
Okay,
that's
we lost
okay.
David here. I know that there was a question about whether Sif was going to be in the room or not, and they hadn't gotten a final confirmation. So it looks like, Red, it's just you and me.
You and me, brother. What was your big takeaway from those conversations today?
The idea of connection is I think a thread that ran through everything today, whether it's positioning myself from a PR perspective, or through a smile, or through software. I mean, how organizational design. What am I connecting to? All of that stuff. And nothing works in this life unless connection is made visible, unless I'm actually working with it. So that would be the key takeaway for me right now. How about you?
Well, I went to Starbucks this morning.
In Nigeria.
And I normally go to this. I normally go to this place, and nobody smiles at me. Well, today the person smiled. The barista smiled, and it was in it. You talk about connection, and it was sort of strange that he was on today, and he talked about. I mean, his whole TED talk with 10 million views was about smiling, right? And I noticed it, and it made me noticeably feel better. It had an impact. And sometimes you just go through life and you get in sort of the zone and you don't notice little things like that, but that makes a huge difference. I mean, just think about how you can improve somebody's day by just a smile.
It's a simple smile.
Yeah.
It's physiologically, and I think we've talked about this at one point in time, but it takes more muscles to frown or to hold a neutral face than it does to smile. So, I mean, if you're looking at conservation of energy, smile.
Yeah.
It's a good way to go.
And fascinating, he's trying to bring that to healthcare, right? Where which is an industry where nobody likes to go to the doctor, right? Nobody likes going to the hospital.
Yep.
I'm fascinated by how you make that more pleasant, right? How you make that more.
Well, yeah, and that's one of the things. I mean, I'm in the midst of a whole healthcare scenario right now, and one of the things that we did, with my wife's hospital room, we made it so it's not a hospital room. Just that design, that question of design the room so that it designs her health in return, so that reciprocity kind of comes into play, and it works when you pay attention to that.
When she's if she's in a happier space, right?
Absolutely.
It makes everything she's going through.
Activates serotonin and just a whole bunch of stuff.
Gentlemen, I apologize. My computer failed me, but you have not failed me. I assume maybe we're talking about a takeaway of delightful healthcare. Is that what we're talking about?
You're next for the takeaway.
Yeah. So I actually like to take a few questions because it is a Friday training. And if you need to drop off, but I run it for an hour, our trainings as well. So I was hoping maybe we could take some questions if we could, and bring up somebody else. And while we're bringing up some questions, I'll give you my takeaway. Gigi, if you can get some questions run up there from the team, and we got a lot of people on here. So my takeaway is interesting because I like the design side of it. Organizational design of taking divisive and separate solutions and finding a common denominator that creates these efficiencies, effectiveness, statistical success in an organization. And my takeaway was at a high level with Mark, who obviously with organizations, NGOs, companies, even countries, over 500 of them, has learned what is my backbone of appreciation. And it seemed to me that the greatest progress that he makes in the redesign of these organizations, in which I want to empower or at least elevate the awareness for everyone in this country, is to appreciate our differences and the disparation that occurs, especially with the election coming out. I found it odd that I would have any contentious comments about a comment that I made, which was after the election on Wednesday, no matter who wins, the person who I voted for or the other person that I did vote for, my life is going to be better. And I know it's aligned with Napoleon Hill, the idea that my life will be better regardless of the changes of time, emotion, and value that occur every single day. And my life has always been better because I have a power to redesign my life. And we have a power to redesign our consciousness, the collective consciousness, especially of our country. And so in this more frustrating, conflictual, comparative community that's voting right now and will continue through Tuesday to vote, I want to hopefully share my sentiment of we're all going to be better off. And maybe that will take off as a collective consciousness, regardless of the personal and community circumstances that exist today. Why not? Because you have a choice, be better off tomorrow, and especially Wednesday after the election. So you're wasting your time. It's a duplicate negative. If you're worried about who's going to be and not going to be president on Wednesday, it's a duplicative negative, because if you're worried about it, you're creating resistance between what we're really here for, which is to participate, collaborate, and coordinate in a unified, abundant system of thought that we have the power to give meaning to our thoughts. So I know you two have taught me that. Now, I gave enough time. You can see all the questions popping in here. So I'm going to ask you guys the next question. What is the easiest way for people to get out of a victim mentality?
The easiest way is, from my perspective and my experience, is to recognize what's in my control and what's not in my control. And victims think that everything out there in some way, shape, or form they have control over. They don't. Shit happens. The only thing I have control over is my thoughts, my emotions, and my behavior. That's it. Period. The end. And if I find myself complaining about something without taking action, all I'm doing is mental masturbation. That's all I'm doing. Yeah, complaints have no power to change anything. I have to be in motion. I have to take action. So just the notion that it starts here and it ends here. That's usually the easiest way to get out of a victim mentality. It didn't happen to me. It really didn't. It happened for me. And that's that subtle shift that happened not to me, it happened for me. What's the embedded piece here that I can actually take action on?
I'm just curious, is this sign language for mental masturbation?
Yep, it is.
Or you just comb your hair?
I got to sit with that. I got to sit with that visual the rest of the day.
Jumbo.
Look, champions.
What can I say?
Champions don't blame other people, right? Champions don't blame other people, and I think the victim mentality is you not accepting accountability for your life and for your work and for everything that you do and how you show up in this world, right? We can show up, we can either be average. This is something I saw Nick Saban say a couple of weeks ago. You can either be average, you can be good, you can be great, and then you can be, world class. And you decide how you're going to show up in the world and the work that you're going to put into yourself, into your work, into your family, and your relationships. And to me, you just got to decide how you're going to show up in this world. And victim and champions and winners don't blame other people, right? They if something happens to you over and over and over again, you have to say to yourself, well, maybe I'm the problem.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah. There's
That's
a
so
common
good.
denominator there.
Yeah, there's a common denominator in not being a leader, and it's blame. So I like that you brought up blame, shame, and justification of non-leadership. Nick Saban, it's interesting because I have such a winning team. I consider the team that I work with, who's inclusive of you two guys, as being the Alabama of the corporate world. I have this unbelievable team, and everybody wants to play for us, and it's hard to be a starter. And on the coaching staff or in the executive front office. But the reason that I feel that we're like Alabama is I remember Nick Saban, who was a coach for Warren in Washington early on in his career and has always been this way. They had a video of Nick Saban when he was beating one of the early season teams, and it was 53-0 at halftime, and they were winning. But if you went into the locker room, you'd have thought they were losing, because, he wants them, and I remember the quote too, not play to get it right, but play until they don't get it wrong. And regardless of the score, just like John Wooden, who you both know is a hero of mine, who would have people their freshman year practice tying their shoes for an hour.
Yeah. Yeah. Put on their socks.
They weren't going to get it wrong. And if you're not paying attention to those details, you're going to be a victim. Anytime my mom told me that you think about why me, you better change it to try me.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. And that's how, for me, an easy way for people to get out of the victim mentality. The minute you get into a mentality of why me, you better change it to try me. And that'll get you out of that in a very effective and easy way. All right. I love Q&A, as you know. I love Ask Me Anything. If you guys are up for it, ready for another question?
Let's go.
All right, perfect. I love it. All right. What can people identify patterns from my past relationships that are unconsciously repeating? We see this having daughters, right? They'll date the same guy, but they'll say, oh, I'm never going out with a guy like that again. He was verbally abusive, or, wasn't nice or whatever. And then the guy looks completely different, but it's the exact same guy. In all relationships, asking here, how can we help identify patterns of past relationships that may be unconsciously repeating themselves? Rhett?
I think it's you got to look at is the person you're with, maybe this isn't going to answer the question, but I think it's really important. If you're making the same mistakes, if you're ending in relationships in the same way, if the same conversation keeps coming up, right? You don't communicate well, or we're not growing together, or if you don't see me, or you don't hear me, you don't get me. If you're having those kind of repeated patterns in relationships, and people keep telling you the same thing, then I think you've got to spend some time with yourself. When we were at Napoleon Hill the other day at the archives, I was reading this thing. He was talking about silence, and that you need silence to get out of all the noise, so that you can actually learn and understand yourself better. And I think, if you find yourself in a relationship that's tough and is not working, spend some time with yourself in silence and try to get to understand what your patterns are, what your habits are, how are you showing up in this relationship. And you're probably going to find some ways that you can, and patterns you can break, and things that you can do better. And you have to be willing to do that. Otherwise, you're not going to grow in a relationship. Relationships are hard work. And I think also having that conversation with your partner on a regular basis, checking in with your partner on, how am I showing up to you? Are you, and being willing to have those hard conversations, I think is why a lot of relationships sort of fail, is we're not willing to address those things, which are hard.
Mm-hmm. That idea of silence. Silence thinks, most people think that sitting in silence is the absence of noise. It's actually the absence of self.
Ooh.
And
yeah.
Just starting from that premise, there's nobody out there but me. So anything that I'm encountering on an ongoing, on a repetitive basis, and this is where patterns come in, it's just an aspect of myself that's showing up in the form of that other person. And if I'm actually paying attention, this is, awareness is the foundation of emotional intelligence. If I'm paying attention, I will see me coming at me over and over and over again. And it's a part of me that's showing up in this other person. So that's where the patterning actually is being presenced, rather than making it about somebody else, making it shifting the focus back here. What am I bringing to the table that is being mirrored back to me in the form of this person in this relationship dynamic? When I started playing with that about 30 years ago, my life transformed. I mean, it was an amazing experience to look at the new aggravations that I was bringing in because I was uncovering a new part of myself. And the old parts that I had been having trouble with, when I recognized that it was just a part of me and I spent some time working on that person or those people never showed up again. And it was interesting. It was just a fascinating exercise in designing a life. Because that's what I'm always doing. I'm designing a life.
It's interesting, the relationship between silence and reflection. And Rhett was speaking of silence and the space that's created from that. Blaine obviously articulating reflection and understanding what that actually means in the concept of identifying the clues of who we are, which then becomes a pattern in a consciousness. Mm-hmm. To allow us to make different choices, we need to be in a different consciousness and have an alternative reflection. And it may require us to have a different space in which to create or co-create that reflection as well. And so I think it's very difficult for people without silence and reflection to identify the clues, because if you can't do those first three predicated upon finding a pattern, you'll never see a pattern.
Right.
And so there's an elevated awareness of this reflection, which holding space for reflection usually occurs when we are silent. And so I think it's really interesting that all three of our answers are coordinated and collaborated into the idea of clues, patterns, and choices and consciousness itself. But without the ability to be silent or hold space and then reflect, we can't even identify the clues. And if you can't identify the clues, you won't have a new reflection. You won't see a pattern or have a different consciousness in which it was created. They're fabulous, man. MBA today. Go ahead.
Let me add one more thing to that. I think it's important. Those patterns often, the result of those patterns are triggers, right? And if we don't know what our triggers are, and we don't understand what triggers us and leads to some of the behavior that we see in relationships, then I think that's, if you don't do any of the work we were just talking about, that's what happens, right? And you get those patterns and those triggers, and it's destructive.
One of the lessons Blaine taught me, I remember when I was having a little bit of a challenge with my siblings, and we were talking about, you allow people in toxicity that are relative to you in a blood relation bother you or interfere with your success, your potential. But he said, just bothers me, worse when my brother says this or does this. And he says, oh, you're triggered. He says, well, you know why? They know how to push the buttons. And I said, no. He said, because they installed them. And so it's a great way to also grow and learn. Let's take a quick question. We got 4 minutes till the end of the Friday training. And I can't think of a better way on a more pragmatic side, because this is office hours. So I'm going to take a question I haven't been asked before, and it would be very pragmatic. But how do you discern when in a meeting if it's going to be productive or not a waste of time?
That's easy.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
No, is there an agenda? Is the agenda relevant to what you're dealing with or what you're supposed to be there for? Are all the right players in the room, all the decision makers, all the key stakeholders? And if those things are missing, I imagine it might be a waste of time.
Yeah. One of the ways that I found that that shows up, agendas, absolutely crucial on that. But the other one is a declaration, an upfront declaration. What's the purpose of this meeting? So that when we walk out of here, here's what we're going to have. And then holding that line, because things start going into, something gets thrown out, and again, we're down that rabbit hole. Nope, come back here. That's not the purpose of this meeting. This is the purpose of this meeting. And having a team leader, a meeting leader that is holding that frame and holding that context is crucial.
And the only thing I have to add to that, Genius, is knowing your timing and risk tolerance before the meeting. One of the expertise that I have in a productive meeting is I'm very disciplined in knowing the timing and risk tolerance, which I've developed a 5-minute rule or a 20-minute rule to a meeting on the phone, or a 20-minute rule for an interview or a meeting, because I know that we are in an explorative. If we have an agenda, have the right people, have a definite purpose, I still think it's important to have a definite timing and risk tolerance to the meeting, so that I can put it within context of value and productivity as well. So as we end here, I want to thank my two professors here on Office Hours, my two professors of Friday training. I've been doing Friday trainings on different days, but every single week. I haven't missed a week for over 25 years. That just means I'm old. And so I appreciate both of you reminding me what a blessing it is to do these things and to have you in my life. If you want to know my mentors, well, they're right here. People ask me all the time, who do you learn this shit from? Well, I learned it from BlaineBartlett.com, Moving Possibilities into Reality. Also, a key member of my Napoleon Hill Institute team, as I've just been appointed the chairman of Napoleon Hill Institute, and also another mentor of mine, Rhett Power. And you can meet him at his email there, rhett@rhettpower.com. Both are available to help other people always. They're accessible, gracious, and productive in the way that they live their journeys. And I appreciate them as words could never, ever communicate. I love you both, and I always have your back, and I'm proud of you. So thank you for joining me. I'll see you both soon.
Yep.
Rhett Powers, ladies and gentlemen. Blaine Bartlett, the double B. Thanks for being here. Office hours, Friday training. See you guys soon.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Awesome. These guys are great. All right, everyone. We are on the move as always. Join our alerting system, 949-298-2905. If you want to exercise and guide from today or a book, just email me, david@dmeltzer.com. You see how to spell Meltzer right there on my license plate. Meltzer, david@dmeltzer.com. Remember, most importantly, be kind to your future self and do good deeds. We'll see you soon. Take care.